Every single day, I bring you another priceless gem from Hollywood's golden age, those unforgettable moments that shaped an era we'll never see again. If you want to keep that magic alive with me, take a second to hit the subscribe button. It doesn't cost a thing, but it truly means everything. Thank you for riding this journey with me. Now let's get into it. At 93 years old, Angie Dickinson is finally breaking her silence about Robert Redford, and what she's revealing hits harder than anyone expected. Born Angeline Brown on September 30, 1931, in the quiet town of Culm, North Dakota, Angie came from humble, ordinary beginnings. Nothing about her early life suggested stardom, yet destiny had something extraordinary planned. Raised by her parents, Frederica and Leo Henry Brown, hardworking, resilient Americans of German descent, Angie grew up during the harsh realities of the Great Depression. Those difficult years didn't weaken her spirit, they forged it. When her family relocated to Burbank, California, opportunity quietly entered the picture. At Immaculate Heart College and later Glendale College, Angie's intelligence, confidence, and undeniable presence made her impossible to overlook. Initially, she imagined a future behind the scenes, perhaps writing or working quietly in film. But fate intervened in the early 1950s when she entered a beauty pageant that changed everything. One moment, one glance, and Hollywood knew it had found something rare. Casting directors were drawn to her smoky voice, piercing eyes, and effortless charisma. Roles followed, small at first, but unforgettable. Every time Angie stepped onto a set, she brought something different, something electric. She wasn't just another beautiful face chasing fame, she was a force, quietly building a legacy that would soon captivate the world. She had that rare spark that made people stop mid-step and stare. In those early years, Angie Dickinson worked relentlessly, hustling from set to set, appearing in popular anthology series and the sweeping westerns audiences couldn't get enough of at the time. She wasn't waiting for luck to find her, she chased opportunity with discipline and determination. By the mid-1950s, Angie was already sharing scenes with some of Hollywood's most respected heavyweights, and with every role, her confidence grew. Each performance sharpened her instincts and proved she wasn't just keeping up, she belonged. Then came the moment that changed everything. Angie's true breakthrough exploded onto screens in Howard Hawks' 1959 Western classic Rio Bravo. Standing shoulder to shoulder with legends like John Wayne, Dean Martin, and Ricky Nelson, she didn't fade into the background, she stood tall. Her portrayal of Feathers, the sharp, self-assured yet emotionally layered saloon girl, was unforgettable. She wasn't simply acting, she was commanding the screen. Almost overnight, Angie Dickinson became a household name, and Hollywood took notice. The industry realized she could go toe-to-toe with its biggest icons without missing a beat. Throughout the 1960s, Angie didn't just stay relevant, she dominated. She became one of the most sought-after women in Hollywood, moving effortlessly between westerns, crime dramas, thrillers, and passionate romances. Audiences were drawn to her ability to blend elegance with raw emotion, while critics praised her for bringing depth, heat, and authenticity to every role she touched. One of her most iconic moments came with Ocean's 11 in 1960, where she shared the screen with Frank Sinatra and the legendary Rat Pack, pure Hollywood royalty. From there, her career surged forward with a powerful run of films that cemented her reputation as a true force. Titles like The Killers, 1964, Point Blank, 1967, and Big Bad Mama, 1974, weren't safe or predictable choices, they were bold, daring roles that proved Angie wasn't afraid to push boundaries and redefine herself. Beyond her acting, Angie Dickinson became a symbol of style and confidence. She graced magazine covers, owned every red carpet she stepped onto, and carried herself with a fearless elegance that made people watch in awe. Her fashion choices were bold, her presence magnetic, and her charm undeniable. By the late 1960s and into the 1970s, Angie wasn't just famous, she was Hollywood royalty. She moved among legends, commanded respect, and proved time and again that she deserved her place at the top. As Angie herself once said with a knowing smile, "It's very delicious to act with beautiful men." And on screen, she made sure the audience felt every bit of that magic. Angie Dickinson pushed boundaries for women in Hollywood long before it became fashionable to do so. She proved that a woman could be strong, sensual, and fearless all at the same time, and that bold combination became her signature. Angie moved effortlessly from gritty crime thrillers to wild westerns to playful comedies, never losing that magnetic fire that made her unforgettable. Her screen presence was undeniable, confident, elegant, and quietly commanding. But when the 1970s arrived, Angie didn't slow down. She leveled up. In 1974, she stepped into the role that would redefine television history, Sergeant Suzanne Pepper Anderson in the groundbreaking series Policewoman, which ran from 1974 to 1978. This wasn't just another cop show. It shattered expectations. For the first time, a woman stood front and center in a genre dominated almost entirely by men, and Angie made it look effortless. Her Pepper Anderson wasn't just tough. She was smart, stylish, emotionally complex, and unapologetically confident. Audiences were instantly hooked. Angie made the character real, strong yet human, fearless yet vulnerable. That connection hit viewers straight in the heart. Critics praised her, fans adored her, and the industry took notice. Policewoman didn't just elevate Angie's career, it changed television forever. Her performance earned multiple Golden Globe nominations and a win, locking in her status as a symbol of strength and independence. Women everywhere saw her on screen and thought, "That's the kind of power I want." Angie proved you could be bold, fierce, and feminine all at once. And when Policewoman wrapped, she wasn't done. "Not even close," Angie once said with warmth and affection, "because I love him so much, and we did Rio Bravo together, and he's such a big lug." That mix of honesty and charm followed her everywhere. While Hollywood often pushed mature actresses to the sidelines, Angie refused to disappear. She kept booking roles, kept taking risks, and kept reminding everyone that true star power doesn't fade with age. In 1980, she delivered one of her most talked-about performances in Brian De Palma's Dressed to Kill. Playing a lonely housewife tangled in mystery, desire, and danger, Angie brought raw emotion and haunting depth to the role. The performance sparked conversation for years and reminded audiences that beneath the glamour was a serious actress with courage, heart, and undeniable talent. Through the 1980s and 1990s, Angie continued choosing smart, challenging roles that reflected her evolution, not just as an actress, but as a woman who had lived, loved, and endured. She didn't settle for surface-level parts. She chose characters with layers, flaws, and soul. Every role reflected her growth, her resilience, and her refusal to conform to an industry obsessed with youth. Angie stayed relevant because she stayed real. Her personal life, however, was just as complex and compelling as her career. In 1952, Angie married Gene Dickinson, a former college football star known for his discipline and clean-cut, all-American image. After his sports career ended, Gene transitioned into the booming electronics industry of post-war America. On the surface, they looked perfect. But behind closed doors, cracks slowly formed. By 1956, the distance was clear, and in 1960, the marriage officially ended. Even so, Gene played an important role in Angie's early rise. At a time when she was still finding her footing in Hollywood, his support and his name helped her gain stability. And when the marriage ended, Angie made a decision that would define her legacy. She kept the Dickinson name. It wasn't just emotional, it was strategic. In Hollywood, a name could shape a career, and Angie Dickinson was strong, elegant, and unforgettable. That name became her brand, her signature, and the identity the world would come to know and admire. During her marriage to Gene, Angie wasn't just mingling with movie stars, she was moving through powerful, influential circles few actors ever reached. She formed lasting friendships with figures like renowned economist John Kenneth Galbraith and his wife, Catherine, expanding her world far beyond Hollywood sets. These experiences shaped her perspective, her confidence, and the woman she became on screen and off. Angie Dickinson wasn't just surviving Hollywood. She was mastering it, on her own terms. The Galbraiths lived in a world far removed from flashing cameras and gossip columns, a world filled with thinkers, diplomats, and scholars who shaped global conversations behind closed doors. Through them, Angie found herself immersed in discussions about politics, culture, and international affairs. She wasn't just talking about movie scripts anymore. She was listening, learning, and expanding her worldview alongside some of the most respected minds of the era. At one point, she laughed and said, "Oh, no way. Are you kidding?" A reaction that captured her genuine curiosity and disbelief at how far her life had stretched beyond Hollywood. Those experiences gave Angie a new depth and confidence, shaping how she carried herself both on and off screen. She was no longer just a star, she was a woman with perspective. When John Kenneth Galbraith was appointed U.S. Ambassador to India by President John F. Kennedy, Angie didn't simply send her congratulations. She boarded a plane and went to see the world for herself. Suddenly, she was walking through the vibrant streets of India, surrounded by centuries of history, color, and culture, worlds away from studio lights and red carpets. The journey left a profound impression on her. So much so that Galbraith later mentioned Angie in his memoirs, Ambassador's Journal, and A Life in Our Times. Those references spoke volumes. They confirmed how close their bond was and how naturally Angie fit into elite intellectual circles that saw her not merely as a movie star, but as a thoughtful, worldly woman behind the famed eye. In 1965, Angie entered another defining chapter of her extraordinary life when she married legendary composer and hitmaker Burt Bacharach. By then, Burt was already a towering figure in music, known for his smooth melodies and timeless songs that seemed to touch hearts instantly. Together, Angie and Burt became one of the most glamorous power couples of their generation, a striking blend of Hollywood elegance and musical genius. Wherever they went, heads turned. They weren't just another famous pairing, they were the couple people couldn't stop talking about. Their marriage lasted an impressive 16 years, nearly a lifetime by Hollywood standards. But behind the glamour, their relationship carried real weight. There were soaring emotional highs and painful lows. Both were deeply driven, fiercely creative, and constantly under the pressure of public scrutiny. Balancing love, ambition, and fame wasn't easy. Their marriage became a delicate dance between passion and strain. Even after they eventually went their separate ways, there were moments when they found themselves drawn back toward one another, a quiet reminder that some connections run deeper than time, distance, or circumstance. Then came the moment that changed everything. On July 12, 1966, Angie and Burt welcomed their daughter, Nikki, into the world. From the very beginning, Nikki faced profound challenges due to autism at a time when the condition was barely understood and meaningful support systems were almost non-existent. But Angie and Burt never wavered. Not for a second. They reshaped their entire lives around Nikki, pouring their energy, love, and resources into making sure she was treated with dignity, patience, and compassion every single day. Angie became her daughter's fiercest protector, a mother who refused to let the world define Nikki by her struggles. She fought quietly but relentlessly, putting motherhood above fame, above ambition, above everything. Nikki's journey was long and incredibly difficult, filled with obstacles few could truly understand. And in 2007, tragedy struck when Nikki passed away at just 40 years old. The loss was devastating. It left a wound in both Angie and Burt that time could never fully erase. Yet even in heartbreak, Angie spoke about her daughter with deep respect and unwavering love. She never sensationalized Nikki's life, she honored it. Angie continued to advocate for greater awareness, understanding, and support for people living with autism and similar challenges. She transformed pain into purpose with quiet strength and remarkable grace. Her love as a mother didn't fade with time. It became her mission. Meanwhile, Burt Bacharach continued his legendary run in music, composing timeless songs that shaped generations and became woven into the fabric of popular culture. Even after his marriage to Angie ended, his influence only grew stronger. When Burt passed away in 2023 at the age of 94, the world mourned the loss of one of its greatest composers, but his melodies live on, echoing across decades and touching millions of hearts. For Angie Dickinson, her marriages to Gene Dickinson and Burt Bacharach, and her lifelong devotion to Nikki, weren't just chapters in her life story, they were its foundation. They shaped her strength, her compassion, and her unshakable sense of self. She faced fame, heartbreak, public pressure, and private loss, yet never lost her poise or her authenticity. Angie carried herself through every storm with a rare blend of elegance and quiet fire that made her unforgettable. And now, at 93 years old, after nearly a century spent navigating Hollywood's brightest lights and darkest shadows, Angie Dickinson has finally decided to speak on something fans have waited decades to hear. Her truth. Her memories. And what really happened when it came to Robert Redford following his passing. Angie's words landed with a quiet force that stayed with everyone who heard them. On September 16, 2025, the world woke up to devastating news. Robert Redford, the iconic actor, director, and visionary founder of the Sundance Film Festival, had passed away peacefully in his sleep at his home in Sundance, Utah, at the age of 89. The announcement sent shockwaves through Hollywood. Tributes poured in from every corner of the industry, each one reflecting on a career that inspired generations and a legacy that would outlive the man himself. For Angie Dickinson, the loss struck on a much deeper level. It wasn't loud or public. It was quiet, personal, and wrapped in memories the world never saw. Their paths had crossed many times over the decades, sometimes working in the same orbit, sometimes simply exchanging a look across a crowded room, but always with a sense of mutual respect that only true professionals share. There was an unspoken understanding between them, a recognition of what it meant to carry fame with grace and survive an industry that could so easily consume you. When Angie was asked what Robert Redford's passing meant to her, she paused. Her voice remained calm, but the emotion underneath was unmistakable. "Robert was one of those rare men in Hollywood," she said. "Yes, he was strikingly handsome, that part was obvious to everyone. But he had integrity. And in this town, that's not always easy to find." Her words carried weight because they came from lived experience. Angie wasn't reminiscing about a distant colleague. She was honoring a man who stood apart in an industry often driven by ego and compromise. She spoke about the quiet confidence that made Redford different. How he moved through Hollywood without needing to announce himself or bend to expectations. He did things his own way, never chasing approval from studios or tabloids. For Angie, who had spent her own career pushing against the limits placed on women, that independence meant everything. She recognized it instantly. In Robert, she saw a kindred spirit. Someone who refused to play by Hollywood's rules. Her memories drifted back to the 1960s, when they were both still climbing, both hungry, both unknown to the wider world. "I remember seeing him when he was still this young, almost shy actor," she recalled.